Welcome to a conversation with a community leader, sponsored by Leadership Kitsap. I'm your host, Cary Bozeman, and I'm the former mayor of the city of Bremerton, and I'm a commissioner for the Port of Bremerton. And it's my pleasure today to welcome the new executive director of the Olympic College Foundation, Trevor Ross. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you very much, Cary. I
Good to have
don't
you
mean
here.
to interrupt you, but you forgot to mention in your intro that you were the former executive director of the foundation.
That's thank you for pointing that out. And it was 6 of the best years of my life. I love working at the college and have very fond memories. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get talking about Olympic College and the foundation, I know you're kind of the new guy in town. Where are you from and what brought you here?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I grew up in San Francisco, California. I was actually born in Vancouver, Canada, and I spent my first 3 years of my life in Bellingham. So this is kind of a return to home for me.
Well, you've lived in 3 pretty good places: Bellingham, Vancouver, and San Francisco. That's pretty good.
Yeah, well, I think when I was just a baby, I was in Vancouver, and my biological father is from Canada, but my mom is a U.S. citizen, and so she had me up there, but moved from there with him to Bellingham, and then she actually ended up getting a divorce from him when I was about 3 years old, and she moved to San Francisco, where she went to law school, and I grew up in San Francisco. I met my wife in San Francisco, and my wife, by the way, is Ariel Bertley, who um, is from Eugene, Oregon, and that's sort of how we ended up in the Great Northwest. After her and I started having children, we started looking at other places to live, and interestingly, she wanted to move to Portland, Oregon, where most of her family and friends have lived for years after she graduated from high school. A lot of them migrated in that direction, and so that was kind of the logical place for us to go. But when we moved to Portland, Oregon, we actually moved to Lake Oswego, and I had
That's a nice town.
Yeah.
I have a good friend of mine who used to be the city manager there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were thrilled to move there. I read so many wonderful things about it, and that was in 2012. And just the funny thing is that I had always loved the Seattle area, and so I said to my wife after we moved there, let's take some trips up to Seattle, and we started coming up to Seattle, and we fell in love with the whole Kitsap Peninsula, and I said to her, I said, I really would like to, maybe live in Seattle and not so much in Lake Oswego and the Portland area. And I was working for Merrill Lynch at the time, and my boss called me, I think the day after I said that, and offered me a job up here working for Merrill Lynch. And I called my wife, and she said, let's do it. And so we moved up here. We bought a house. And
did you move up to Kitsap County?
We did, yes.
Oh, so you were going to be a commuter into Seattle?
No, actually, we moved to Bainbridge Island.
Oh.
And my position, ironically, was on Bainbridge Island. They wanted me to be the advisor at the Bank of America for Merrill Lynch on Bainbridge Island, and work with the.
So how did you get to Olympic College?
So hopefully this is one of my last moves, to be honest. So I wanted to get more into the fiduciary area of the law. So I started my career as a financial advisor, but in 2000, after September 11th, I really wanted to get more education, and I ended up going to law school. I ended up graduating from law school in 2006. And
where'd you go to law school? UW?
I went to San Francisco Law School.
Okay.
And after attending San Francisco Law School and then practicing for a short period of time, I ended up going back to law school and getting a master's in tax law, which is known as an LLM in taxation. And So with my LLM in taxation, I really felt
So
like
that help that kind of background helps you with endowments and those kind of things, the kind of business you're now
it
in,
it
right?
it, it really does. Yeah. I mean, it lends itself to that. And so I ended up moving to Indiana with my family for a period of time to run a trust department. But we just really wanted to come back here. And so we moved back here in 2019. And this position, I was working for BECU in their trust department. But my entire career, I've served on boards. And when this position opened up as the executive director of a foundation, well, that really seemed like the next logical step in my career was to, you know, be the director of a foundation. I could do what I love as well as apply both my financial and legal background to my job and give back to the community.
Wow, that's a long, circuitous route. Uh, but you applied for the job and obviously won it, right?
I did, yeah, I did, and yeah, I'm thrilled to have it. It's
Had you worked for Trevor? Had you worked for any other nonprofits, or is this your first venture into the nonprofit world?
This is my first venture in the nonprofit world.
You know, the thing about it is, you're going to work, and you know your work means something. I mean, it's going to help people's lives, and you're getting paid for it. So I think I applaud your decision. I think you made a great one. I think you're going to be incredibly happy. So let me talk a little bit about college during the COVID before we get into the foundation. How is this COVID affecting the college in terms of program and that sort of thing? I assume kids, you don't have students in school. Is that true, or do you?
Well, we do. So we have allowed for the programs that have to be hands on. So a lot of our labs are back in session and on campus on the ground.
Oh,
Of course, with social distancing measures, we have welding, which is it's a hands on course. So any of the courses that really students need to be at Olympic College and in the classroom are still taking place, which is, I think, fantastic.
mhm.
They have to submit a safe start plan to the emergency start committee and have it approved and make sure that they're following all the guidelines, the classrooms are being cleaned afterwards, and that everybody's wearing a mask and that everybody's at least 6 feet apart. But so we do have classes that are in session. However, the majority of our classes have gone online, which is kind of a neat thing because there's a lot of colleges that have a lot of online offerings, and I
Yep.
suspect after the pandemic, we will continue to have a portion of our classes online. It's
Yeah,
just kind of the
my wife works for a big corporation in the Seattle area and has been a commuter for many, many years. And in March, when the pandemic kind of hit, they sent all their employees home to work out of their house. And I'm talking about a pretty large workforce. And they've just been told that they might not be coming back, that the company might continue this process of having their employees work from home. And I think, I'm not sure what after COVID is going to look like, but my guess is a lot more people are going to be working out of their home.
yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree. However, what I would say is that, for me, I'm a people person. I love the
Yep.
fact that you and I are able to get together today, but I
Yep.
hate the fact that we're not able to meet in person. And
Yeah. I agree. I loved going to the office every day.
yep,
I loved it. I'm glad I did most of my work during a normal time in life. This is so difficult, but we'll get through it, and we'll get on to some sort of normalcy. Um, what? Let's talk about the foundation a little bit. What is the mission of the Olympic College Foundation, Trevor?
well,
What's the foundation's purpose?
our purpose is to provide, or not provide, but help students achieve their dreams through education, to give them the financial means to go to school. We also support the faculty, and that's really kind of lines up with my life aspiration of helping others and giving back to the community. And I personally, the one school I didn't mention is I am also a graduate of San Francisco City College,
Oh yeah.
and that if without San Francisco City College, I would have never been able to go on with my education. And so to be part of a community college here in the state of Washington is really a dream for me. I've been a lifelong learner, as you can see that the degrees that I have, but I always think back to my roots and how I got here. And there's so many
Well,
people in our community that can use our help.
community colleges are so important. When I went to University of Washington, which is way back, it was affordable. I mean, it's a public institution, and I think my quarterly tuition was $300 or something like that. And nowadays, a public school like UW is 25,000 a year or more, maybe. And the average, a lot of people, average kids can't afford that. So community colleges give these young people a chance to get started at an affordable rate. And you guys are, the foundation's providing like free education for a lot of them if they qualify. Is that right?
It is. We give away over $300,000 a year in scholarships and grants. But I will tell you, Cary, it's nowhere close to what we need.
Really?
You mentioned the cost of education and, a community college education. Yes, it's a lot cheaper than a 4-year college, but I will tell you that it's still expensive. It costs $4,000 a year to go here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to do the nursing program, it can be as much as 5,000. And, that still is a unreachable, unattainable goal for a lot of kids. When I went to San Francisco City College, it was $50 a semester. And
Plus, Trevor, to get in the University of Washington anymore, you've got to have about a 3.8 grade point or 4 point to get in. Well, I graduated from high school with about a 2.9, right? I would have never today been able to get in the University of Washington and get my degree. And I've been mayor of 2 cities and had a pretty good career in life, right? But young people that are coming out of high school, maybe they were living in adverse circumstances. They can't get in the University of Washington. So the community college, like Olympic College, is an alternative to get them to eventually be able to get to a 4-year college.
No, that's right. I mean,
plus you could get your degrees now at Olympic College, your BA, right?
That's right. We have several 4-year programs. We have the engineering program, and I just think that we help break down a lot of barriers and increase equity for people that can't necessarily start at a 4-year college. But we also have a lot of running start students that come here, and a lot of other students that just want to take advantage of the programs at Olympic College. And I think it's just an exciting place to be.
So you're giving away $300,000 in scholarships. I know the main thing for the foundation is you have an endowment, right?
That's right.
And let's talk about the endowment a little bit. How big is it? How do people contribute to it? How do you decide how much money you're going to give away every year? That sort of thing.
Sure. So I'm proud to say that the endowment is a little over $20 million now.
Wow, that is fantastic. When I left, I think it was $3 million.
Okay. Well, it's grown a little bit. We've had some pretty good market returns in recent years. But we are at our heart fiduciary, so we manage that money prudently. And so when a donor does give to the endowment, they can rest assured that their money will be there for years to come. We allow people to give to the endowment in primarily 2 ways, either through a permanently endowed scholarship in the donor's name. And so what we do is a donor comes and meets with me at the foundation and agrees to give a sum of money, or they do it through a bequest through their estate, either through their trust or through their will. And they leave money to the foundation with instructions on how they want a scholarship to be set up in their name. And
is there a minimum amount that they say I wanted to go give the Cary Bozeman Scholarship Award every year to a student? Is there a minimum amount I have to invest be able to do that?
Yep, there is. The minimum amount to make sure that it's a perpetual endowment is $75,000. And if you were to give us $75,000, we would be able to say to you with confidence that your money would grow and allow us to create a scholarship in your name or in your family's name into perpetuity, and that means forever. However, if you wanted to give a lesser amount of money, we would accept that too, because we are a charity. And what we'd have to do in that case is we'd have to set up what's called a quasi-endowed scholarship. In other words, the amount of money that you give us, we would draw down over a period of time until it was gone and be able to provide. And that can be a very meaningful way to give money to a foundation. So, if there's a listener out there that is thinking about giving money, but maybe through a bequest, and they're thinking, well, I'm not going to have $75,000 at that time, they can still leave the money to the foundation, and it'll still be used to create a scholarship in their name.
I know when I keep referring back to when I was there, because it's so impressive what's happened. The minimum amount for a scholarship was $25,000. Now this would be back in, 20 years ago, maybe 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I know there were so many people that were interested in doing that. It was, I'd go talk to couples about it, and there was just a lot of interest in endowing a scholarship for a student. And a lot of them, the people that endowed them would come in and interview the students themselves, and they really enjoyed that part of it. That's still true to donors.
So donors don't necessarily get to interview students, but at the end of the year, when we award the scholarships, we invite the donor to come in and meet the student at an awards dinner. And
nice.
And so, during COVID, we weren't able to hold the awards dinner. So what we did was we set up individual Zoom meetings, kind of like you and I are doing today, with the donor, where they could talk to the student who received their scholarship.
And how do you determine each year how much you're going to give away in scholarship?
So what we do is we take between 3 and 5% of the investment returns off the top from each endowment. And then that amount of money is set aside to create scholarships for students. But we keep, but for the permanently endowed, we keep the principal intact. And so that way it stays forever.
Endowments, so interest rates are pretty low anymore. It's hard to make a lot of money on accrued interest. So it's a good portion of your endowment, I assume, is invested in a variety of different ways, right?
Yeah, well, we have it primarily invested in stocks. We have a money manager who actively manages the portfolio pursuant to our investment policy that we have in place. And so that manager is looking at the investments on a daily basis. As you know, I have a background in investments, and I look at the investments on a very regular basis.
Well, the market's been pretty good for a long time now. So
yep, we've been in it, had a nice bull run, and I hope it continues.
Let's talk a little bit about another way to support the college, and that's through your will, that sort of thing. What kind of program do you have around how you were able to talk to people about leaving the college something in their will?
Yeah, so in that case, we would set up a memorial scholarship, and so and we just actually did this for a very lovely couple who came in and said they were doing some estate planning with their attorney, and so they worked with me and Terry Gleich, who's our director of scholarships here at the foundation, to create a memorial scholarship that we put in place, and we provided a copy of that scholarship to them, and I signed it and they signed it. And now their attorney is going to create a bequest through their estate planning documents, either their will or their trust, where at the end of their lives, there'll be an amount of money that will come to Olympic College and fund that memorial scholarship.
I remember one day an elderly couple came in to see me, and they were fans of the college, and they decided they were going to leave their home to the college. And Miles was their name. And I'll never forget that. They were just dear, wonderful people, and that was an exciting day for the college, because it was a nice home and it was on the water, and we knew it would benefit a lot of kids.
That's
So,
that's an amazing bequest. And then the other thing I want to say is if there's somebody out there that wants to leave something to the college but doesn't necessarily, want to come in and meet with me, they can still do that through their will or through their trust. And they don't have to say anything, and we'll receive that money through the probate process or through the trustee that they name after they pass on. So, there's a number of ways that you can leave money to the foundation that will support the college. And I encourage anybody to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to discuss all of the different ways you can do that.
yeah. Listen, I know you do some fundraising at the college. You have an annual luncheon. We used to call it, when we first started, matter of fact, I started that, Trevor.
Okay.
When we first started that, we called it the Columbus Day Luncheon because it was on Columbus Day, which was a holiday at the college. But for obvious and many reasons, we don't call it that anymore. But it's been a very successful annual luncheon for the college. I assume you're not going to be able to hold it this year. Is that true or not true?
Yeah, so we did actually hold it this last year, but we did it via a fundraising campaign. So it wasn't actually an in-person lunch. It was just a mailer and an ask, and then a lot of follow-up calls that I made and other people on the board made to donors of the past, to ask them to contribute what they had in the past. Now, with that said, we also have an annual auction and brunch, and we are actually planning for that right now. And I'm really excited to mention that we're going to have that at on Sunday, March 21st at 10 a.m. and it's going to be a live auction and brunch on Zoom. But
Wow.
it should be pretty fun. I am going to host.
Does that kind of replace what we used to do at Anthony's?
No,
Anthony's lunch?
I'm very happy you mentioned Anthony's, because Anthony's for this is actually going to be our lead sponsor. During the pandemic, restaurants have had a lot of trouble and have not
No,
been able to sponsor events like this. And so
the owner of Anthony's is a dear friend of mine. And
oh, he is.
when I was mayor, I talked him into building that restaurant over there. And I said he wanted to have one charitable event a year. And he asked me who it should be for. And I said the most, because everybody would want to be it, or they'd want to be the charity of choice. And I said, I think the least controversy you'll have is if you do it with the Olympic College, because everybody loves Olympic College. And they've been doing it for, I don't know how many years now.
It's actually, I believe, 15 years now. Yep. And they have been a huge supporter of us. And so when we turned around and said, we still would like you to sponsor our event as the lead sponsor, they agreed to it. And in fact, they're giving, so even though it won't be held at Anthony's, we're going to be sending out a gift basket with a bottle of champagne to everybody that comes to that event. And that way we'll be able to do the traditional champagne toast, which should be pretty fun. Their manager is going to say a few words at the auction and brunch, and they're going to be giving away, as one of our main auction items, a dinner with the manager and the head chef for 6 people, a private dinner. And so it should be a really fun event. In fact, right before my conversation with you today, I was on a planning meeting for that event.
Well, make sure my wife and I get an invitation. We love the event. I helped get it started, and I really feel good. And Bud Gould is the owner of Anthony's.
Okay.
And I think that's extraordinary that they're doing this, because they've been really a difficult time.
Yeah, they have.
So it just shows his commitment to Olympic College, and that's really good news. I'm really
well. We actually turned around and went back to them and said, because you supported us for so long, what we're going to do is, for each ticket that we sell to this event, we're going to buy a $50 gift card from them.
Oh, that's a great idea,
in order to support them, because I know that they're having a hard time, and I know that a lot of our donors know that, and so as part of the event, every guest is going to get a $50 gift card for their ticket purchase.
Jump on a couple more other things. There are 3 branches of Olympic College, and I remember one year the foundation helped fund the capital campaign for the Hazelwood Library. Yep. Are there any other of those kind of capital projects that you see coming down the road where you might get into a capital campaign again?
I think we will. I definitely think we will. At the board level, we've had some of those discussions. We're really kind of waiting for the coronavirus to kind of wrap up here, which I'm hoping will be at the end of this year at the
Yeah,
latest. And
yeah.
yeah, we will probably start another capital campaign in that regard.
Well, those are always, I think that those are healthy things for a foundation to do. Not, you can't do them every year, but a lot of people love giving to brick and mortar and giving to a building and that sort of thing. So that would be
Absolutely.
great. Hey, Trevor, we're getting down toward the end of our conversation here. Um, I've got two questions for you. One, is there anything I have not asked you that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Well, the only thing that I want to share is that we are having that auction on Brunch on March 21st at 10 a.m. And Anthony's is our lead sponsor. And I'm just excited to have it. And I'm hoping that everybody that's watching this will reach out to me if they don't receive an
So
invitation.
how do you get invited to this?
If you go to the Olympic College Foundation.org, there'll be information about the event, or you can email me or call me directly. My direct telephone number is 360-475-7121. It's
Okay.
475-7121. And my email address is tross@olympic.edu. So that is tross@olympic.edu. And I'm sure there's a lot of people on this call, but I'm a people person, as I mentioned at the beginning of this call. And anybody that reaches out to me, I will 100% take your phone call and or take your email and get back to you and make sure that you have all the information to come to that event.
Well, count in Cary and Cary Bozeman, I'll tell you that. Uh, this program is about a conversation with a community leader, and you being the executive director of the largest foundation in our county, I would guess next to the Kitsap Foundation, and you probably got more resources than they do. Uh, what is your leadership philosophy? What's your belief around leadership? How to create change?
Well, I believe sincerely that great leaders lead through action, lead through doing, and not telling people what to do. I also believe that great leaders take responsibility for their actions. So when you make a mistake, you own up to that mistake. But I also know that great leaders are surrounded by a team of great people, and the people that I work with in the foundation are that great team. And when I have a success, it's their success. And when I have a failure, it's my failure. It's not their failure.
Trevor, the Olympic College Foundation has always had a quality board. I think in their history, they've always attracted good people that cared about that college. This community loves that college. Half the people in this city or this community probably went to Olympic College at some point. So it's a beloved institution. There's no doubt, and I'm sure you're proud to represent the foundation and be the head of it. It's good to have you here. It sounds like you're well qualified, more than that, to lead this organization, and I want to wish you well, and you and the foundation, and I want to thank you for all you're doing for our community, and stay healthy. We'll get back to some normalcy. This has been another conversation with a community leader, and we'll see you next time on our next show. Thank you so much, and thank you again, Trevor.
Thank you, Cary, and thank you to the community.
Leadership Kitsap is our community's civic leadership program. Leadership Kitsap fosters and empowers educated, prepared, and engaged community leaders. For over 25 years, we have cultivated leaders that work collaboratively to create positive change, dedicated to making our community a better place to work and live. We expose our class to Kitsap's leaders across public, private, and nonprofit sectors. We're happy to bring many of the conversations with these leaders to you. Strong leaders build strong communities.